All right, so let's start this off hot. All right, so Mike, I've never met you before. Just go. Nice to meet you. Okay,
Likewise.
so I do these podcasts every week. I'm asked to comment on things people say. I do a show with Russo and stuff. We do the news of the week, and you had made some comments about the Undertaker's comments about this generation of wrestlers. Okay, and you commented on that, and I responded to your comment.
Right.
Okay, and then that's part of the clip. Just news, whatever wrestling journalism is these days. That's what it was, right? So, Joe, go ahead and read what he said. Okay, so everybody is in context on what we're talking about.
Okay, this was from the Wrestling with Awareness podcast, and here's the quote. Mike said, so first and foremost, I have the utmost respect for Undertaker. I always have, and he was one of my favorites growing up. He was nothing but kind to me anytime I interacted. I didn't interact with him a lot at WWE, but every time I did, he was great. My issue is his problems seem to come at the talent and say that it is their fault that the product is soft. I can promise you that the talent has zero input on the product that gets put out. They get told what to do. If they go off script, they get yelled at or they get punished. It's not the talent. The talent has always been ready and willing to do whatever is asked of them, and most of the talent have had far more success on the independents, doing what they normally do than when they get to WWE and get watered down. They get told to do this and do that and do this. I do understand where the Undertaker's coming from. It's just from what I see, it's just a generation gap. It's a difference. We, as a professional wrestlers of my generation, we look out for each other. We have each other's backs. We understand when the company's trying to screw us or this or that, and I don't think the guys are soft. And my wife is very close with Michelle McCool and having that interaction there. I don't think Undertaker was trying to be disrespectful. I think it's just a generational thing. I think it's his mindset of, well, this is the way we did it. They're not doing it this way, so it must be wrong, as opposed to someone like Mick Foley who's adapting and understanding the way professional wrestling is evolving, or someone like Edge who helped out so many of the younger guys and understands where wrestling is evolving. So I don't think it was a disrespectful thing from The Undertaker. I think it's just a generational gap and not understanding this generation of professional wrestlers.
All right. So I don't want to drag this on forever, but I'm going to paraphrase what I responded to that. But I think, and like Nick is here, and which is good because like he's in the mid. Like this is a good conversation because there's a lot of not professional wrestlers in a public forum having this conversation with each other. The older generation, the younger generation. Guy Nick in the middle of both old school and new school philosophy, and like just discussing the issue that the old school guys like me have with the new generation. Okay, and this is where I think the main problem is that we were like more centered around personality, charisma, like doing things that I tell people all the time. The way to really get over in professional wrestling is if you do something that fans can impersonate. Like if I want to live vicariously through Mike Bennett, if I want to live vicariously through Nick Aldis, if I want to live vicariously through me, okay? And me and my friend are going to go out and we're going to play around in the backyard. We're going to simulate a match, right? What would each of us do to let people that are watching us know, okay, well, that guy's Mike Bennett, that guy's Nick Aldis, and that guy's Disco Inferno. My character would be the one that was being like doing like a lot of flamboyant things, and these are recognizable things that people see, and you can do getting a pop. Okay, as I've seen like the business gravitate towards, because I became a mark of it too. When you're in the business and you start seeing the Japanese wrestling, the style, you're like, wow, I do this. I'd like to try that, right? And we started, over the course of time, we started hitting each other harder. We started we started gravitating away from personality, gimmick, things that you can do, the fans can imitate, into more like, okay, we're trying to like work harder. We're trying to hit each other harder. We're trying to, and like, the way that we look at this now is like you look at like my generation, so like, well, we couldn't do that. Like we can't keep up like these guys. Like honestly, we could, because that's the biggest disattach. Is like we could do all these things. Everybody talks about the acrobatics, the athleticism in today's everything. Like, dude, it's like we all could have done these spots, but we did not think of doing them because we didn't have to. We were getting pops doing the other things. So I see like this generation, the disattach is that when Undertaker talks like this and I talk like this and everything, that's where the divide is between the old school and the new school. Is that we were centered more around personality. and this generation's more about hard work. And I'm like, I just think it's more feasible to do it the way where you don't get hurt, as opposed to the way you do it where you're more likely to.
Yeah, I think I 100% agree. You guys could get away with that back then, but it's not back then anymore. And wrestling's evolved, and I think there's a place for each and everything you talk about, but there's also a level to think about the fact that there's a bunch of places to work right now that when I started in 2001, you couldn't work. And it's because of this style. It's because of the Ring of Honor style. If you look at the guys that are on WWE TV now, if you look at the guys that are at AEW, if you look at New Japan, if you look at Impact, it's all those guys that did the Ring of Honor style. So it must be working in the sense that there's a ton of places. There's a ton of places to watch this stuff. There's a ton of places to consume this stuff. And I understand the argument is always, well, look at the ratings and wrestling is going down. But that's not true. Everyone's consuming wrestling on different platforms now. Literally, people will watch wrestling just through their social media feed, or they'll go to YouTube, or they'll go to Instagram, or they'll go to TikTok. Ratings are like, to me, honestly, I think they're like a tiny, tiny portion of what actually matters. So I disagree in the sense that I think this stuff does work. I just think that, again, it's not a disrespect. I don't think Undertaker or you understand this generation of professional wrestling. I just think it's lost. And again, that's fine because you guys made your money back then. You guys did it. You guys were successful. And that's not a knock on you. My issue is let's use what you guys know to help elevate these younger guys as opposed to just taking a dump on them. Like I get being like, I don't want to see you get hurt. I don't want to see this happen. And I think you're doing too much. Do I think some people do too much? Absolutely. But when I try to teach the guys that I'm teaching, or like I'm literally on the road right now going to a seminar to teach young guys, I teach them, do the stuff. I don't know if I can curse on your podcast, but I won't
curse.
Okay, cool. I want to be respectful. Do the that you know, do the crazy but also it's the stuff in between that's going to make your crazy look even better, look more important. I just don't agree with this idea that, oh, this generation is soft because we don't do it the way you guys used to do it. I don't understand. I think there's a disconnect. I think you can't say on one sense that you guys are hitting harder, you guys are taking crazier bumps, and then on the other hand saying, but also you're soft. Isn't there a disconnect there? I mean, at least I think so.
His choice of that's not my choice of words. That's his. So it's like, right. You go ahead, Nick. Do you want to say something?
Well, so let me just qualify this by saying that the first I was made aware of this little this
Twitter spat.
Yes, for lack of a better term.
We're like scorned lovers.
This discourse was I saw some of Mike's comments, and so I text Glenn and said, "What did you say about Mike? Like, what's going on there?" Because obviously, as both of you know, I respect you both, and I somehow I feel like I've somehow sort of fallen into this quite unique position in the business where I seem to unite the opinions of different generations.
Right. It's because your accent too
somehow
gives you just a more distinguished, you're more. You should be the authority speaking others, right?
Yeah, despite my alarming ability to make chicken salad out of chicken. Given sort of some of the lack of opportunities that people have highlighted over and over again, I somehow have united the opinion of like Russo and Cornette and Meltzer and Bischoff, and everyone.
You're right in the middle.
Right, they all, with the exception of Bruce, they all seem to like me. But the thing I found interesting was, when I said this to Glenn when I was texting with him, I said, "You're both right. It's just where anyone who follows me on social media will probably realize that my level of social media activity recently has gone way down. And it's mostly, I've been busy with other but also just because I'm just so tired of the philosophical war in wrestling, right? Like this sort of, and I think that what happens is everyone's trying to generalize everything in the sense that, and first of all, let's go back to the Undertaker thing first, because I listened to the Rogan podcast, and I think that his comment got taken out of context. And I think like wrestling at the moment is very heavily kind of under siege from this triggered
polarization.
Kind of, yeah, very triggered, very quick to react, very virtue signally kind of crowd.
Yeah.
And I think because I mean, it's not like I sat there and forensically listened to it, but when he was describing the product, he said the product is soft. Like Rogan said, like, what do you think of the product now? And to be fair, he was describing the WWE product, right? Like, and so for me, I felt like the whole thing got blown out proportion from the beginning, because I don't really recall, other than the typical video game comment of like, the guys are playing video games now, but like that's like, to me, that's low hanging fruit. Like that's just like that's nothing, right? I felt like he was referring to the product, meaning like the creative, like in that it's not Steve Austin, driving a pickup truck into the arena now and stunning the boss and flipping in the and stuff. And it's not girls getting their tits out, and it's not like guys saying whatever. It's guys going like, "Hey, just so you know, just because we're going to be tag team partners tonight doesn't mean that I'm your friend." Oh, okay, like and it's kind of like but that's kind of soft.
I agree with that.
To the creative, but as far as like the guys themselves, look, again, this is something that I have to bite my tongue on a lot, which is unusual for me. But like, I see this all the time. The guys go, "Oh, the guys today don't sell." No, some of the guys today don't sell. Oh, the guys today, they don't tell stories. They don't have psychology. No, some of them don't. And it's like, you go on and on, because I get thrown in with my generation on all kinds of shit that I never do. Like, I dare anyone to find me do a tope suicida, because I've never done one. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like, I have to sort of sit there and listen to, people sort of, lambast, this generation for what they don't do right and how they don't get it and this and that. But then at the same time, I'm also like, well, I've carved out a niche for myself in the industry by being the antithesis of that stuff, which is really how the business tends to work anyways. Right. Like, if you look at the guys who make money, they're always kind of, there's always fashions going on in wrestling. Like there's always, okay, like right now the fashionable things is running knees to the face and kicking each other in the head as hard as we can, and it's all fad stuff. You know what I mean? Like ultimately that's just today's drop kick, or whatever. And it's the guys who. It's either the guys who innovated that stuff, which is, who everyone's then copying, or it's the guys who go, okay, you guys do all that stuff. I'm going to, or, like me, I go, hey, if you want to do that to me, like, fine, I ain't going to do it, but I'll figure out a way to tell a story with you trying to do that to me and me, catching you in my finish, whatever.
Well, let's go one step further with what he said, because like, I think you got like, here's the other thing. Okay. When he spoke about the Undertaker, it's like, well, the Undertaker, had a lot of freedom in his creative and stuff.
That's 100%.
Wrestlers today do not have a lot of freedom in creative.
Right.
Obviously not, because that's the main problem, is they're given material and they're struggling through their mind to say, how would I possibly say this on TV and try to sound, and you can't. You got people that are writing comic book conversations and giving it to real people and saying, hey, just say this. And like, I'm trying to talk like a real person, but you make me talk like a cartoon here.
And this is where I'm sort of conceding that you're both somewhat right, in the sense that you're basing kind of your opinion on stuff on the success that your guys had in your era. But there's a lot of different factors that go into it, as some of it's right.
I'm aware of that.
Sensibilities, culture,
here's my thing.
The economy. The economy was booming. There's all kinds of factors that go into that successful period. But yes, creative freedom was one of them, and that's something that doesn't exist for WWE. And again, that's another thing. Like, I'm sure that everyone's aware of the kind of impending crackdown that they're having on all the third party stuff or whatever. And obviously, look, I'm somewhat close to it. Like, I have a degree of separation to it, but I understand. I know what's going on. And I was having that conversation with my wife today, like, in the sense that, look, they're providing you with a choice, right? Like, take the money You know, they'll guarantee you very good money, but this is the rules, right? Or make it on your own, and you know, and do your own shit, like roll the dice.
But you kind of make my point though, because now it's like, okay, they're not giving you creatively anything to get you over, right? So what you have now is the time that you get in the ring, that's your chance of getting over. All right, so. The kind of like attitude I see kind of like this, like even Mike said, it's like, you know, like we have 0% input with our character. It's like, no, you don't. You have a lot of input in your character when you're out in front of when you're in the ring. Like, well, nobody told me. But here's my point.
Right.
That's the distache. Is that like guys are like, you know, in this business right now, because they don't do a lot of things in between the moves to get a pop. They go out there and they work hard.
Some guys.
Some guys. And everybody, the people trying to one-up themselves and, like, thinking this is what I have to do to try to get over.
Yeah.
And I want to say that's what I say to those guys. Rein it back in a little bit. Try to work on your character more instead of trying to, like, risk, go over the top to try to get yourself over and risking yourself bodily harm. And that's, I think, if we could, like, marry those two philosophies of like our risk reward in professional wrestling today with like some more of the old school principles, I think it would evolve even further. But right now it's like it's kind of like a heavy attitude where it's like, hey, the old school guys really don't know what we're talking about. Let's just keep going forward with this. And I'm like trying to bring people together that kind of agree that like maybe everybody's right.
So let me ask you this then. Let me hypothesize this. Do you think that the environment, and again, I can't speak to this other than, you know, from a degree of separation hearing from the missus, but Mike can speak to it, he's worked there. But do you think that the environment that they have created there for their talent is partly responsible for the guys who then, when they go outside of WWE, like a pendulum effect, deliberately sort of going too far the other direction, you know, as a sort of retaliation to the level of control?
Ask Mike that, because you've been there.
Yeah, I mean, I think having just come from there, it's and Disco, I completely get what you're saying in the sense that like I think we actually agree on this. I think blending the two styles together is perfect. And like I said, that is exactly what I try to teach people. I tell people I could never do the shit that you guys do. I just can't. I'm not talented. Like I don't have the athletic ability. What I can teach you is what to do in between those, how to get to the next spot, how to get to the next thing, to try to get the most emotion out of people. But again, what WWE breeds is constantly trying to one-up people. You don't get a say on what you do. And I know everyone thinks like, oh, when you go out there, yeah, you don't get a say. You will get yelled at if you don't do exactly what they tell you to do.
In your match? In your match?
Yeah.
Really?
In your match.
Like yes, the matches are that scripted now?
For the most part, if you try to go even a little bit, if it's not your job, like if they're trying to get someone over and you go out and you try to get yourself a little bit over, you will get in trouble. It happens all the time. It's happened to Zack Ryder. Like it happens. They try to control every little thing you do. I mean, look what they're doing with social media. They need to control every aspect of what you do. And like, I think the problem is guys look at it and they go, well, if I can't do it character-wise, which I think there are a lot of guys, believe it or not, in this industry, especially younger guys, that do believe that characters sell, that do believe that there's a blend of mix. I don't think it's this blanket statement that all guys just want to do New Japan or all guys just want to do WWE style or, you know what I mean? I think most guys want that blend. I think most guys understand that if you're an over-the-top character or you're a character someone can connect with, that you will most likely be more over. But at WWE, if you're not allowed to show that character, which let's be honest, they don't let you because they're giving you these crappy scripts and these crappy segments, your first thought process is, well, let me get over in the ring with what I do. And most of the time, believe it or not, you're just trying to get over with Vince McMahon. You're trying to show him because you know for a fact that even if you get over with the fans, it really doesn't matter. So you constantly have these things in your head and you're going, well, I can't show this bit of character because then I'll get in trouble. What can I do? well, I can try to top what I did last week in the ring and try to get some sort of a reaction that way. And I think that's an issue. I think that's a problem.
I think it is.
It's one of the reasons that made me crazy.